Let me tell you something that nobody in your life has had the guts to say to you directly. Your potential is the reason you're stuck. That thing everyone keeps telling you that you have, that you're smart, that you're talented, that you could do something great if you really applied yourself, that you're capable of so much more than what you're currently doing. That thing is the exact thing that's been holding you back, and I'm going to explain exactly why. Picture this, there's a guy in your circle, maybe you know him personally, maybe you are him, smart guy, the kind of person that everyone around him has always recognized as capable. Teachers noticed it, his parents noticed it, his friends noticed it, even strangers pick up on it pretty quickly. And he knows it too. And here's where the problem starts. Because knowing you're capable, really deeply believing that you have what it takes, creates this very specific and very dangerous psychological safety net. And that safety net sounds like this. I could do that if I really wanted to. I just haven't applied myself yet. When I actually decide to start, I'm going to go all in. I'm not ready yet, but when I am, it's going to be different. You hear that? That's not humility. That's not patience. That's not a strategy. That is your potential being used as a permanent excuse to never actually test itself against reality. Because as long as you never try, as long as you never actually put your ideas and your talent and your capability out into the world where it can be judged, your potential stays perfect, untested, unlimited. In your head, you could do anything. You could build the business, you could grow the channel, you could make the move, you could be great. But the moment you actually try, you risk finding out that great is harder than you thought. And that risk, the risk of discovering that your potential has limits, is scarier than never finding out at all. So you don't try, and you call it waiting for the right moment. Let me show you exactly how this plays out in real life, because I want you to see it clearly. You watch someone else build the thing you've been thinking about. Maybe it's a YouTube channel in your niche, maybe it's a business doing something you had an idea about 2 years ago. Maybe it's someone your age getting the opportunities you told yourself were coming for you eventually. And your first reaction, be honest about this. Your first reaction is not inspiration. It's not an admiration. It's something a little more uncomfortable than that. It's this quiet voice that says, I could have done that. I could do that better. If I had started when they started, I'd be further along than them by now. And you believe it, because your potential is still perfect in your head, still untested, still unlimited. They had to actually build something in the real world with all its messiness and uncertainty and failure and slow progress. But your version, the one that exists only in your imagination, is always the best version, always the one that would have worked better if you'd just gotten around to starting. That voice is your potential protecting itself, because if you never start, you never have to find out if the version in your head was ever real. Here's the thing about potential that I think is the most honest and most uncomfortable truth I can give you. Potential means nothing, literally nothing, on its own. Potential is just a promise you make to yourself and everyone around you about what you might do someday. And a promise without action is just a story. And you have been living inside a story about what you're capable of for long enough that the story has started to feel like an achievement. It's not an achievement, it's a placeholder. And the longer you hold on to your potential without testing it, without doing something real with it, the more dangerous it becomes. Because it gets heavier, and the expectation of what you should be able to produce when you finally do start gets bigger. And the gap between where you are and where your potential says you should be gets wider. And starting becomes more frightening, not less. Because now you have years of built-up potential to live up to. And what if you start, and it turns out the reality doesn't match the story? That fear is what your potential has turned into, not fuel. Oh wait, I want to talk about the smart guy trap specifically, because I think it's the version of this that hits closest to home for the most people watching this. Being the smart one, being the capable one, the talented one, the one everyone expects great things from. It comes with a specific kind of comfort that is almost impossible to see from the inside. When you're the smartest person in the room, you don't have to try very hard to impress people. You can coast on your natural ability and still come out ahead of most people around you. And that coasting, that effortless superiority in your immediate environment, gets mistaken for evidence of what you could do if you actually applied yourself. But here's what that environment is actually doing to you. It's keeping you comfortable in a pond that's too small for you. And every year you spend being the biggest fish in that pond is another year you haven't tested yourself in the ocean. And the ocean is where the real growth happens. The ocean is where your potential either proves itself or gets recalibrated. And recalibration, finding out that you're not as far ahead as your small pond made you feel, is exactly what you've been unconsciously avoiding. Because in the small pond, you're special. In the ocean, you're just another person who hasn't built anything yet. And that's terrifying when your entire identity has been built around being the capable one. Here's the other version of this this that I want to call out directly, because some of you aren't the quiet potential guy, some of you are the loud potential guy. And that's a slightly different problem. The loud potential guy talks about his ideas constantly. He's always got a plan, always got a vision, always got something he's about to do. And the people around him have heard the ideas so many times that they've stopped asking for updates because the updates never come. The channel that was going to launch 6 months ago, the business that's been in the planning stage for a year, the move that was definitely happening by the end of last year, the thing that is always just about to start. And talking has become a substitute for doing, because every time you talk about the idea, you get a small hit of the feeling of having done something, the excitement of the vision, the validation of the people who say it sounds great, the temporary satisfaction of having a plan. And that hit is just enough to take the edge off the urgency. Just enough to make starting feel less immediately necessary. Just enough to push the actual doing to next week, next month, next year. Your potential has found a way to feel productive without producing anything. I say this with genuine respect. People are starting to stop believing the ideas. Not because the ideas are bad, but because ideas without execution are just entertainment. And you've been entertaining people with your potential for long enough that it's starting to become a running joke you haven't noticed yet. So what do you actually do about this? One thing. Just one thing. Start something this week that you cannot finish in a day. Something that requires you to show up more than once. Something that forces you to put your actual capability, not the imagined version of it, into the real world where it can be tested and judged and improved. Not perfectly, not when you're ready, not when the plan is fully formed. Now, with what you have, in the imperfect, messy, uncertain way that everything real starts. Because here's the truth about potential that nobody tells you when you're young. It has an expiry date. Not in the sense that you can't start later. You can always start later. But in the sense that every year you spend protecting your potential instead of testing it is a year that the gap between what you believe you're capable of and what you've actually proven gets wider. And at some point, and I've seen this happen to guys in their late 20s and early 30s, the weight of all that untested potential becomes so heavy that starting feels genuinely impossible. Not because they're not talented, but because the expectation of what they need to produce to justify all those years of potential has become so enormous that anything less feels like proof that it was never real. Don't let your potential become that weight. Test it now, while it's still light, enough to carry into something real. Because the version of you that actually builds something, even something imperfect, even something that takes longer than you planned, even something that doesn't match the perfect version in your head, that version is worth infinitely more than the version that stays potential forever. Potential that never becomes anything is just a story you told yourself. Go build something real.